Well, hey folks, Jack Spirko here. I shared a story yesterday evening on social media, Parler and Gab and MeWe about Mother Earth News ceasing all partnership with Joel Salatin. And they did this over an impasse in political disagreement or some shit like that. Let me break that code for you into non-bullshit version. Social justice warrior bullshit that Joel Salatin refused to bend a knee to. That's the truth. That's what it really is. And what I want people to know is this this desire to attack Joel Salatin by these leftist morons is not new. In the video notes here, I will provide to you a link from an article that's over 5 years old that when I saw it back then, I was surprised. See, I'm not surprised at this happening today. Back then, I was surprised. And there was already a lot of leftist lunacy. Cancel culture was already a thing. It wasn't what it is today, but it was already here. And we were seeing all types of people attacked. But one person that I thought back then I would never see attacked was Joel Salatin. Primarily because the man is 95% agricultural and maybe 5% political, and his political view is leave people alone and give people freedom. That's it. But I guess that's enough to be hated. So if you read this article, and I shit you not here, if you read this article from 5 years ago, the assertion made by this dingbat, who had like as a philosophy major or something like that in a graduate program, is that Joel Salatin is a racist because he farms in a racist manner. I think that since the camera's flipped around, maybe this is backwards. But what this mug says is, I am not responsible for what my face does when you talk. Nothing could be more appropriate than a statement like that. And let me tell you what this dingbat asserted was not based on something like, well, I don't know, some kind of crazy shit the lunatic left could come up with, like, I don't know, he puts pigs in a cage and moves them around for paddock shifting or something. I don't know, like, his chickens are here and his pigs are here, so they're segregated, so it's right. Like, as stupid as that would be, like, when you're talking about someone farms racist, like, you're struggling to come up with something, right? Or, you know, some justification for this accusation. If you read the article, you'll see the assertion is, I know this is true because I read books that say so. Because they define the characteristics of racism. And if you read these same books and you went to college like me, then you'd understand this. And if he went to college like me, he'd understand this. He's a racist that doesn't know he's a racist. And as you dig through this intellectual drivel, trying to find, well, what is your actual point? What actually makes this man a racist? It comes down to, since he farms and produces a premium product, and he sells it for a price that allows him to actually make a living farming, there's a lot of people that can't afford to buy what he produces, and therefore, he is specifically not producing for poor people, and then black people are and minorities are disproportionately a member of the poor, and therefore he's farming racist. You know, maybe you and I can't make this shit up, but apparently some people can. So this is nothing new. This is nothing new. I don't know the exact specifics that Mother Earth News has a problem with Joel Salatin, but I know that this from Mother Earth News is also nothing new. They have run this cycle. I've seen it at least 3 times in my life as an adult. I started reading Mother Earth News back in the mid-'80s when I was a kid still. And I remember going up in the attic and finding my uncle's stash of some magazines. Not those kind of magazines. There were like Outdoor Life, Mother Earth News, stuff that was all kind of outdoorsy farming. And there were like hot rod magazines, right? So that's what I mean when I say that. And I remember finding these old issues of Mother Earth News from like the 70s. And they were like, how to farm catfish in a barrel with a worm farm in your backyard, and how to make money on bullfrogs and stuff. And it was like, this is so cool. And I learned so much about sustainable living and agriculture and growing stuff. I even learned some new tricks I was able to turn my granddad onto with our garden and stuff like that. And then they went crazy, and then they kind of came back from crazy, and then they went crazy again, and they kind of came back from it, and now they've gone crazy again. And again, it's a cycle that I've seen over and over. What happens over at Mother Earth News is, and we didn't call them social justice warriors back then, but it's the same ilk of people take over, and they take a magazine that's supposed to be teaching people about sustainable living, about regenerative agriculture, about homesteading, about all this natural back to the land stuff that it all came from, and they try to turn it into a political instrument. And they've taken the damn thing to the brink of bankruptcy twice. Let's hope this time that they stay in charge. You guys over, just ride that ship straight off into oblivion and die. Just go away, because you've proven that you have a cancer that you refuse to eradicate from your system. And I'm saying, we don't need a Twitter mob. We don't need to all get upset. We don't need to have some kind of stupid shit where we all go out and act like leftists and start burning copies of Mother Earth News in the fire or something like that. We don't need to do any of that. We need to start practicing what I'm going to refer to as cancel culture. And we don't do that by emulating cancel culture. That's where you get all angry and you start screaming and you start yelling about boycotts and whatever. And I'm not saying not to boycott, but not in the way that they do. And to understand what I mean by that, you have to understand, first of all, these people aren't boycotting anything because they don't spend any freaking money in the first place. They don't spend anywhere near the significant portion of the money that supports these organizations that bend a knee to them. They're a mob of mouths. They're not doers. They're not producers. They're parasites. And if you yield to parasites, all that's necessary is for producers, just the same way I said, these cities like Portland and LA, just leave. Let them die. Let them rot. Let these parasites try to exist as parasites with no host. So maybe a company like Nike, a fashion company, can get away with virtue signaling. Let them. Okay, fine. There could be some successes. But I mean, many of these companies have already virtue signaled themselves into bankruptcy. Dick's Sporting Goods, anyone? Right? Yeah, look, we're going to not sell any more AR-15s because they're death machines. 4 months later, bankruptcy. Duh. Of course. But instead of flipping out about it, instead of acting like a leftist mob, understand that your power when it comes to corporations is in your wallet. This is your power. This is a way more powerful way to vote when it comes to government or corporations than you can ever do with a ballot. When you leave a city that's a parasite and you take this with you, you take away a tax base of productive citizens. When you take a company like Mother Earth News and say, I'm not going to subscribe to you anymore, you take away this. When you don't go to their Mother Earth News fairs, you take away the wallet. When you take away that, you take away what makes them able to exist in the first place. I did my first Mother Earth News Fair in January because I'd seen this cycle of social justice nonsense from them for years. I was very hesitant to even reach out to Mother Earth News. I was always told you should present, you'd be a great presenter. And a good friend of mine who will remain nameless for this because I don't know what he's going to want to do about what's going on. I don't want to interfere with his relationships or anything like that. But he convinced me to come to the one in Belton, Texas this winter. And I said, hey, I think that they're not going to like me. I'm kind of like a crazy anarcho-libertarian. He's like, hey, they even work with Joel Salatin now. Really? Yeah. He goes, yeah, the guy I got there, you know, he's totally different. He's cleaning all that up, and you'd fit right in. So I agreed to go, and that gentleman reached out to me. And about a week before the event, I knew there was trouble. Nothing bad happened, understand that. Nothing bad happened. But I got an email from him saying, I won't be doing this anymore. So-and-so is taking over from now on. And I thought to myself, here it is again. They're going to virtue signal themselves into oblivion again. I know it's going to happen. Because whenever there's like big time coordinator changes or something and something like this, that close to an event, the reason the decision has been made is because an entire change of direction is coming. And, you know, when you look at history, you see a pattern that shows you the future. So I knew it was coming. I was not surprised at all when I saw this, not even a little bit. But I did learn something about Mother Earth News and their customer base by going to Belton last year. I must have talked to 1,000 people, at least 1,000 people in 3 days. It was a great event. There was some flaws with it, like, I don't know, you have presenters coming in to present to 300 people, and you tell them to do a PowerPoint deck, and then you give them a 36-inch flat screen 10 feet behind them for that audience. Like, that's pretty stupid. But, I mean, other than that, it was pretty well run. But what I really did is I got to talk to the people that spend money with Mother Earth News, that go to their events, that buy their magazine. Do you know how many people I talked to that I would think would be okay with this decision by Mother Earth News to disassociate with Joel Salatin because he farms in a racist manner? None. Not one. Now, these were all people that took time out of their day. Many of them traveled significantly to go to this event, spent their money with vendors, and supported this organization. And I'm back to, I don't think a single one of them would have been okay with this. I don't think a single one of them would have had a negative opinion of Joel Salatin. Joel Salatin has fanatical fans that are like radical feminists. Look up Leanne Keith. Leanne Keith is about as a radicalized feminist you can find, and she loves Joel Salatin. Because while Leanne Keith might be kind of in that radical element, I'd get along with her too. You know why? Because she has common sense and she's not freaking insane. She's also a productive member of society. Probably because she's a recovering vegan and she fixed her brain by starting to eat meat again. I don't know why. But my point is that in all of these organizations, corporations, etc., the people that actually use this in their relationship with them, the vast majority of them anyway, that spend their money, do not agree with this type of mindset. So what we need to do is just turn your back on them. And how is that different than what cancel culture does? Because cancel culture largely isn't actually doing it with this. They're doing it with their mouth and their virtual mouth online. They're behaving the same way they do in these riots and in these protests, as a mob. See, the mob makes itself appear more influential than it is. The mob, by its action and its mouth and its volume, makes it seem larger than it is. And then, basically, you're influencing due to perception rather than influencing due to reality. So I think this is a perfect opportunity. Here's what I'd like to see. The thing that really made Mother Earth News fairs cool was because they'd been around so long, they had such a big group to draw from, and because they were willing to do what it took to run multiple fairs, multiple events in multiple locations every year. Instead of doing like one big one up in New York or Virginia or Florida or, you know, where people had to travel across the country to, odds were that within a half day's drive, if you wanted to go to a Mother Earth News fair in 80% of the country, not 100%, but 80% of the country, you could go. And then you could meet other people that thought like you, and you could find all these great products and vendors, and you could see these great presentations and seminars and learn so much, and that made it really cool. Well, Mother Earth News doesn't have a monopoly on that. Joel Salatin's already announced the same dates that he was supposed to do this thing on his farm with Mother Earth News. He's just doing it himself as his own festival. I'm sure it'll be hugely successful. I'm sure just as many people will go. Maybe more now. Because I'm thinking, I really don't want to go all the way to Virginia. It's a long way for me. But I might go next summer just because. Just because. Because I really believe in Joel and the work that he does. But I'll just bet, because this is the thing I love about Joel. I've had several friends put together events and workshops and things like that. You know, from little bitty ones with, you know, a few dozen people that maybe Joel couldn't come to, but like his son came to. But I've seen Joel support things like the Rogue Food Conference and stuff like that John Moody put together. They're not that big, but support it. So what I know about people like Joel Salatin, and there's a lot of people like him, is that if somebody gets something like that going, he'll support it. Guess what? You know who else will? Me. Also, I don't have time to do it. I'm not setting up Jack Spirko's, you know, traveling sustainable agriculture fair. I'm not doing that. But if you're motivated, if you know some people, if you can start putting something like that together and you want to, and I would start out with 2 or 3 locations the first year, and you can lose your ass in events real handily if you're not careful. And we got to get past this COVID shit so that you can actually do these things again. But by the time we go into next year, we will be past that. I think someone needs to do this. And I think that what's more important than not doing business with people that bend to cancel culture is doing business with people who do not. And I think this is what you have to be successful in the new world that's coming today. Because the people that kneel to cancel culture, sooner or later, the free market will provide. And this is what it will provide. It will provide companies that say, then go elsewhere. When somebody goes, well, I don't like the way you do this, and I don't like the way you do that, and I think you need more of this, and I think you need more of that, and you don't have enough diversity, go buy from somebody else. I've done events and I've supported events where we got complaints like with one particular, I won't go back and name it, but it, ran 3 years. And I got a complaint from them. There's not even a single woman in the presentation panels and I'm not coming. And the organizer said, what do you think I should tell them? I said, I think you should tell them thank you for not coming because we don't want you here, because if you think that way, we can't help you. By the way, there is a couple female presenters. Maybe you just didn't read far enough down the list to see them. But I know in the case of this gentleman, he was going out of his way to try to bring in more diversity. But the known speakers he could get that were willing to commit and come just happened to be white dudes. That's just the way it happened to be. But that's what I've always said. Whenever I do anything, whenever I run anything and I get an email or something from somebody that's like, I don't like the way you're doing this, then don't look at it. Go away. I don't care. I'm going to go on Twitter and tell everybody to boycott you. Thank you for the free publicity. I appreciate that. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. I don't care. That's what we need to start supporting. And again, don't be like them. So I guess what I want to finish with is say, well, how is it different then? How is it different for us to say we're not going to do business with corporations that behave this way? Well, that's not what the mob is saying. The mob is screeching and screaming autistically that they need to be boycotted. They're picketing them, they're protesting them, they're harassing them. They're making a big, giant scene. Again, because they don't have anywhere near the power that they act like they have. This is perceived power. And when perceived power is incorrectly perceived, it becomes real power. But I'm telling you what, folks, the market speaks. And that is the ultimate vote. Right there. You don't need to flip out. Just if you're a Mother Earth News subscriber and you think this is reprehensible behavior, cancel your subscription and let them know why. Don't get mad. Don't scream. Don't create a hashtag campaign. Just, bye-bye. And they might even tell you, well, sorry you feel that way, until the mass exodus begins to come. When they start running quarterly financials and they're like, shit, this hurts. Damn right it does. And I'm all for being a nation of second chances. Mother Earth News has had their second and their third chance at this point. I won't support them. I won't have anything to do with them. I won't do another event. I won't present with them ever again. I won't spend a dime with them. I won't have anything to do with them ever again. I'm not mad. I'm not ranting. I'm just done. And that needs to be what we do with all of these companies that want to partake in cancel culture. We need to just cancel culture. Take care, guys.